What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, February 25th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Kyle Lowry from the Miami Heat playing the New York Knicks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Kyle Lowry has averaged 33.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 35.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 6,800 DraftKings salary, 400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 211 points scored in this game, and Kyle Lowry has scored 49, 26, and 27 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 46, 38, and 36 minutes. So he's playing a ton of minutes with the Miami Heat. He's got that 40-plus fantasy point upside, so I like Kyle Lowry here versus the New York Knicks. Now, just real quick, if you want to save a little bit of salary at this position, I also like a guy like Dennis Schroeder or Patrick Beverly. Those guys are around 52 to 5,300. And if you really want to save a bunch of salary, take a look at Devontae Graham from the New Orleans Pelicans. He's only 4,400 DraftKings salary, and he's 400 less on FanDuel. Now, he's only been playing 22 to 25 minutes the past 3 games, so a little bit of risk there, but he's got some upside if he gets going. Only needs about 20 fantasy points to get you 5 times value or more, so I think he's an interesting value play here at the point guard position. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Gary Trent Jr. from the Toronto Raptors playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the 2nd worst defense overall. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. And Gary Trent Jr. has averaged 30.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 30.5 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 33 fantasy points or more, get us 5 times value or more. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary, 200 more on FanDuel. Now, they finally raised this guy's price tag. He was always in the 5K range or low 6,000s, but he's priced right now, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 225.5 points scored in this game, and Gary Trent Jr. has scored 42, 8, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 28, and 37 minutes. So we're looking for 35 minutes or more from Gary Trent Jr. He's in a great matchup, so I think he can score 35 fantasy points or more and get you over 5 times value. So I like Gary Trent Jr. here versus the Charlotte Hornets.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns, playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. And although they've been pretty good against the small forward position, Mikal Bridges, he's averaged 25.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. But I think he can score 30 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more. He's 6,100 DraftKings salary, and he's 500 less on FanDuel. So I love that FanDuel price. Mikal Bridges has scored 38, 25, and 35 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 31, 40, and 32 minutes. So I like Mikal Bridges here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, although this guy has not played well the past 3 games, he's still got some pretty big upside. His price has come down a bunch, and he's super cheap on FanDuel. So take a look at OG Anunoby on FanDuel, averaging 32.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 37 minutes per game. Now, the last 3 games have not been great, scoring 11, 13, and 24 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 25, and 37 minutes. But this could be a good game, especially on FanDuel, to pick him up cheap. And maybe he plays around 30 minutes and can get you 30 fantasy points or more and crush value. So I like OG Anunoby on FanDuel as a value play. And another guy, or another couple of guys that I like at this position, a guy like Franz Wagner from the Orlando Magic, playing the Houston Rockets, who have the worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Franz Wagner has averaged 28.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He's projected at 27.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's 5,700 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel, and Franz Wagner has scored 21, 47, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 32, and 28 minutes. And I like this pick because he scored 35 fantasy points in his last game versus the Rockets. So I think it's just a really good matchup, and you can get a good price on him right now. So I like Franz Wagner here versus the Houston Rockets. Another guy who's looking pretty good for the minutes that he's playing and his upside is Cameron Johnson from the Phoenix Suns. He's only 4,800 DraftKings salary and 600 less on FanDuel. He scored 37 and 30 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 30 and 31 minutes. So I think he's a pretty nice value play under 5K.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
But now let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Keldon Johnson from the San Antonio Spurs, playing the Washington Wizards, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards, but Keldon Johnson has averaged 28.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 28.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,700 DraftKings salary, 200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 225 points scored in this game, and Keldon Johnson has scored 36, 21 and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 31, and 32 minutes. So he's getting pretty decent minutes, and he's got that 30-plus fantasy point upside. And I like that he's going to get around over 5 times value, even if he only gets his season average. So I like Keldon Johnson here versus the Washington Wizards. Okay, moving on to the center position. So you got some studs on the slate: Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, but Karl Anthony Towns is on a back-to-back, although he only played 27 minutes yesterday. And the stud that I really like at the center position, if you have the salary, because he's playing a ton of minutes, he's been super productive, is Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors, playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the second worst defense overall. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing centers, also available at the power forward position. Pascal Siakam has averaged 44.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 38 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. I think he can score 46 fantasy points or more in this matchup, get you 5 times value or more. He's 9,300 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel, and Pascal Siakam has scored 43, 25, and 64 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 33, and 42 minutes. He's also scored 52 and 56 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Hornets. So I like Pascal Siakam here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Now, another center that I like, you want to save some salary at the center position. This guy looks to be a fantastic value play, especially on DraftKings. Take a look at Montrezl Harrell from the Charlotte Hornets, playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a good defense overall. They give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Montrezl Harrell has averaged 27.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 31.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.7 times value. He's 5,600 DraftKings salary, although he is 1,100 more on FanDuel. And Montrezl Harrell has scored 38, 29, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 33, and 29 minutes. He's a point per minute monster at 1.14 fantasy points per minute. So if he can get 25 or 26 minutes or more, he should be able to hit value. And if he gets 30 plus minutes, he should crush value on DraftKings. So I like Montrezl Harrell here versus the Toronto Raptors. Now, if you're looking for a low salary center that's got some pretty good upside, even though his minutes have not been great lately, it looks like he's going to be able to play enough minutes to get it done. Take a look at Ivica Zubac from the LA Clippers, playing the LA Lakers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they've been pretty good versus opposing centers. But Ivica Zubac has averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He's projected at 25.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. And he's 5,000 DraftKings salary. Now he is 1,000 more on FanDuel. So DraftKings play for me. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223 points scored in this game. And Zubac has scored 30, 39, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 22, 31, and 22 minutes. So I like Ivica Zubac as a value play on DraftKings here versus the LA Lakers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.